Hello! Today I am going to look at the Chapter 9 review for Pythagorean theorem. Our first questions are determine if the following triangles are right, acute, or obtuse. In order to do this, what we have to do is see if a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Here, let's square each of these values. 2 squared is 4. 2 root 3 squared, well 2 squared is 4. Root 3 squared is 3, so 4 times 3 is 12. And 4 squared is 16. So the biggest value here is 16. So how does 16 compare to 4 plus 12? Well, 4 plus 12 is 16. Since those are equal, this is a right triangle. For part B, if I square 50, that's 2,500. If I square 14, root 14, that's 14. If I square 51, I should be able to do that, but I grabbed a calculator. 2,601. So these are the two small ones. If I add these, the third one is too big. Since that hypotenuse is too big, it's going to be obtuse. I guess it wouldn't be a hypotenuse at all. It'd be an obtuse triangle. Let's do the same thing for these three numbers. 24 squared is 576. If I want to square this, it would be 9 times 15. 9 times 15 is 135. And 25 squared is 625. These two are the two smallest ones. How does that compare with 625? Well, this would be 675, or 576 plus 135 is 711. 711 is greater than 265, so this is acute. All right, for number 2, if I want to solve this, we don't know anything about these angles, so the only thing we know is that this is a 90-degree angle, so we can use Pythagorean theorem. So a squared plus the square root of 15 squared is equal to 3 root 2 squared. So a squared, the square root of 15 squared, is just going to be 15. 3 root 2 squared is 3 root 2 times 3 root 2. So 3 times 3 is 9. Root 2 times root 2 is the square root of 4, which is 2. So a squared plus 15 is equal to 9 times 2, and 9 times 2 is 18. So now we just subtract 15 on both sides, so a squared is equal to 3. Square root both sides, so a is the square root of 3. So there we go. To find b, we do the same thing. A squared, which is root 12 squared, plus 2 root 5 squared is equal to b squared. Root 12 squared is 12. 2 root 5 squared, 2 squared is 4. Root 5 squared is 5. Now I saved the step of writing it out. Hopefully that doesn't confuse you. 4 times 5 is 20. And so this is 32. So I can take the square root of 32 to be my answer for b. Now the square root of 32, I can take a root 16 out. So this will be 4 root 2 as my answer. Finally, over here, c squared is going to equal, or c squared plus root 35 squared will be 4 root 7 squared. Let's put a little squared up there, I'm running out of room. Or c squared plus 35. 4 times 4 is 16. Root 7 times root 7 would be 7. So 16 times 7 is 112. So c squared plus 35 is equal to 112. So I'll subtract 35 from both sides. 112 minus 35 is 77. So I square root both sides, and c is the square root of 77. Now that you can take out a 7 and 11, but neither of those are perfect squares, so we just leave it b. All right, now these are perfect, or special right triangles. So if this is 45, 45, 90, if that's root 2, this side would be square root of 2. And we multiply the short side times the square root of 2 to get the hypotenuse. So root 2 times root 2 is root 4. The square root of 4 is 2. So x is 2, y is the square root of 2. Now, in this 45, 45, 90, we have the hypotenuse. We have to divide by the square root of 2 to get the sides. So root 2 over root 2 will cancel out, leaving just 7. So this side 7, and this side 7. Over here, we have this third side in a 30, 60, 90. I have to divide by the square root of 3 to get y. So 10 divided by the square root of 3, which we will rationalize to be 10 root 3 over, this would be root 9, which is 3. So 10 root 3 over 3 would be y. I guess I didn't label that, should be x and y. And to get the hypotenuse, I just multiply that by 2, so it'd be 20 root 3 over 3. All right, moving on. Now we have a little bit more complicated situation. If this side is 9, this in a 45, 45, 90, this side would be 9. So our hypotenuse would be 9 times the square root of 2. Now in a 30, 60, 90, I multiply the short side times the square root of 3 to get this side. So it'd be 9 times the square root of 2 times the square root of 3, which we could multiply those together to get 9 times the square root of 6. For E, if this side's 5, this side's 5, and the hypotenuse would be 5 times the square root of 2. I have to double that to get my hypotenuse, so that would be 10 times the square root of 2. Over here, this is a 30, 60, 90. To go from the intermediate side to the short side, I divide by the square root of 3. So it's 6 root 6 divided by the square root of 3. You can divide the things in the square root, so that would be 6 root 2. And if the short side is 6 root 2, our hypotenuse is twice that, which is 12 root 2. Now in a 45, 45, 90, to go from the hypotenuse to the short side, we divide by the square root of 2. So 12 root 2 divided by root 2. These two will just cancel out, so x will just equal 12. All right, that gets you through the first page of your homework.